Hey, we are back on the Unriveted podcast, where we talk about artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and stuff that makes us happy and passionate, that why we work in tech. Hey, John. So today, this podcast is brought to you in part by, guess who?
One of our two or three continuing sponsors, I would imagine.
Pick one.
The and you know what? It's been a long time. I can't remember exactly all of their names anymore, so you'll have to enlighten me.
All right. So we're saying goodbye to the word corporation, and we're saying goodbye to the verb
Oh,
corporation. And today we're going to put Wingnut Investments on hold. We're tightening the ROI.
right.
Just a what? Thumb screw
Thumb
away.
screw away. Right.
Right.
Yes.
So
Nice and
today's
dark.
yeah, very dark. So today's a special day. You kindly introduced me to a couple entrepreneurs up in the Pacific Northwest. Woohoo! Up in the Northwest. A pair of brothers. Last name is Francis. It's Zach and Jason, and I've been working with them for the last several weeks on some stellar stuff around AI and agentic type workflow and agentic work completely. And what's really cool is that their company, Willo.ai, is one of our new proud featured sponsor partners. So here we are. So I'm going to give a
Excellent.
quick flyover demo of Willow at the highest level. Then I'm going to dive into a project. And then just for grins, we are going to make a video game live to add to an existing video game portal that I built on their platform.
Wow. All right. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I know you've had a little bit more experience with the platform than me, but from what I've seen from their side and your side, it's pretty amazing what you're able to draft together in a very short amount of time. So AI continues to impress and amaze and maybe scare all at the same time, right?
So let's start with the humor points first before we get to the game. But let me do a screen share, and we'll talk about a little bit here because believe it or no, believe it or not, our audio downloads are way up versus our videos. So it's like wow. So we want to make sure we describe things as we go. And John, don't hold back. Here we go. So I'm going to start sharing the screen, and I'm going to share a all right, so there's my whole screen, and we're starting off with all my businesses or projects that I created under Willo.ai. So starting with a very passion project, one I'm very deeply fond of, Potty Poet. I also then built a lead generation project under Local Tax Pros, followed by, guess what? Our media website for Unriveted was rebuilt here. I'll skip the nonprofit for now, but then I'll get into the video arcade called Pupcade. That's right. It is phone-friendly, web-enabled gaming from your phone. And then, last but not least, the start of a project that I put on hold for a couple days because we're getting ready for recording. It's called Beacon, which is a synthetic monitoring system. No longer will my money go
Nice.
to someone else.
So some fun projects mixed in with some maybe more serious projects. The funny thing is I remember you telling me about your first one, Potty Poet, a long time ago. And you know what I think is great about platforms like these, or maybe just AI in general, is that I've had ideas for projects or websites or services or business or what have you for many years trapped in my head. And I suspect most people, most of our listeners have probably had that where, boy, that's a great idea, but I don't know where to start or I don't know how to make it. And I too have been able to construct some of my project ideas using uh, agentic engineering coding design, which is the fancy way of what we'll call vibe coding, because vibe coding is so passe, Martin. But
Well,
nevertheless, it's become
so
quite easy to construct.
Exactly. But there's more to the vibe coding than meets the eyes. And it takes the eyes of a builder and the mind of a builder, and a mind as terrible as mine, which is not worthy to waste. Play on words there to build things. But here I have Potty Poet. Feel free to go to see pottypoet.com. You can enjoy it, find some humor, and move on. Let's just move along to the next fun thing I built, which was, look what I did. Instead of using Framer or Vercel, I rebuilt our Unriveted. Yeah, it's kind of fun. And if
Beautiful.
you, yeah, I even put a lovely picture of us and our book and links to our book, and it's live. This is not demoware. This is live. This is very cool. Um, but kind of one of the things I want to emphasize, because I want to run the platform and show it as opposed to just say it, is I built
Of course.
a gaming platform called Pupcade.
And I have to say, for those that are not seeing the visual right here, that the three different designs for the website, so your Potty Poet, Unriveted, and now Pupcade, are all dramatically different in terms of their aesthetics. And it's pretty incredible because a lot of times when you work with these website generation tools built with AI, they seem to default to some of the same static elements over and over. So unless you and you can tell me, maybe you specified specifically how you wanted to build these websites, or maybe you just let it go on its own. But from my visual inspection right away, all three of these websites look quite different from what was generated. So that's pretty good.
So I'll give some insight and some how that magic all works. But I'll give a quick flyover of the games that are currently inside of Pupcade. We've got Dogger, which might sound a little bit like some other game that from the past called Frogger. Bark Blast, Rumpster, don't imagine what that could be. Pupstack, Bella and Teddy, Hot or Snot, Zoomies, and Treat Drop. And we're going to build another game right now. And I'm going to
Wow.
share. I have a PRD here, and it's called Unriveted. It's going to be the Unriveted game, and I did this before we started, and it's going to be a play on a few different other games like Jenga, Angry Birds, Bridge Builder, and have some physics and destruction involved. But let me not belabor. I'm going to do a control copy of all that information. I'm going to come over to Willow. I'm going to jump over to Pupcade, and what would be funny is if I'm out of credits, right? So let me double check my
I hope
credits.
you checked that before.
I did.
Nah,
I did.
things to
But
do before recording.
I know. But it looks like we have a few credits here. So the cool thing is, oh, here's the cool thing. So on the right side, you see I'm rendering in the, I can change the render format from full
Nice.
screen, tablet, and phone. So I designed this to be phone friendly, the game. So here we go. I am adding a game called Pupgate. I just pasted in the PRD. I could have uploaded a file, but I decided just to do a paste. It's quick, and I'm just going to let it go. But the magic here, and this will happen in the due time, is that it's going to pull together the aesthetics. It already knows about this project. It knows a lot about what it's trying to build, and then it deploys it. It's not just a facade. This is actually under a public DNS. Yes, I had to play DNS games and I had to work with my registrar DNS, but I do that like every day ending in Y, right? This is something I do normally, not a big deal. And it takes care of the DevOps part and the debugging part when I ran into little things like CORS errors. Oh my goodness, what do vibe coders do when they get a CORS error and they don't know they have one? Their head blows up. Go ahead, John.
Fix this error, fix this error, fix this error, copy paste. Yes, I have done that myself before, but I will say that the good thing about using vibe coding, at least from my perspective, and maybe not everyone does this, is that you learn what these issues are as you go, and you learn to refine your prompts and your PRDs and the context that you feed into your agentic coding agents. Address them before they happen, which significantly reduces the amount of time you spend fixing them, and the less frequently they happen. So tell me about, while we're waiting for Willow to add this feature, not specific to the PRD that you fed in, but give me some idea on the content of what goes into your typical PRD, and how that helps design the Pupcade app, or any app you're building,
Any
whether
app,
it's on
sure.
Willow or not. Yeah.
This applies. So, I also have, Claude Code, and I also have Codex, and I also have access to other tools, and I can deploy things differently, but I really like this integration and takes it up a notch. So basically, I put the kitchen sink into my PRDs, including how the color palette I'm looking for. Think about a brand book look. If I want curved edges, if I want certain types of imagery, I may create those imageries assets elsewhere, and then I'll upload them all and let it rip. But I do the hard work of what the images should look like before I give it to Willow. So when I say hard work, it's not that hard. I give it, here's my icon I want, here's my favorite icon I want, here's the header image I want, those kind of things I do, or backgrounds. And that is huge for doing a layout when you say, hey, I want this always in the header, or I want this always to like a hero area of the body, etc. And what's fun is they're adding new capabilities as we go, which is what I'm super excited about, where I can work with other team members for maybe QAing my work, or I can pass off this work. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in Willow, we have a special offer for you with a special link that will be included in the podcast notes and when I publish a couple articles, and it will be related to Unriveted as a special partner of Willow. So it will save you 50% on your first month of usage. And by the way, you can try it for free, but then you apply our code, you get a month for 50% off, and you can make a lot of creation in 1 month. And then you can decide if you want to spend another.
I think one of the things that you hit on there is maybe the differentiation between vibe coding and agentic AI engineering, right? Maybe people see it differently, but when vibe coding first came out, and vibe coding, I would say, still exists in a lot of capacities, is where you have a very general prompt. Like if you go into Lovable or Bolt, and it's like, build me a website that does this, period.
Right.
And that's it. And while you might get something out the other end, I think, the way that AI has evolved just in the past 6 months, maybe, is that detail in your PRD or your prompt or whatever is not lost on the agentic backend that is generating whatever it is you're trying to create. So, people have said before that the English language is the new, programming language of the 21st century. And I think that in some respects that's very true, because now, instead of writing, thousands of lines of code, you're writing maybe thousands of lines of prose describing, what you want to have created. And when you do take that effort and level of detail, the results are typically much better than if you just, blow through it with simple prompts that have no connectivity to themselves. So I think too, a lot of people that badmouth or vibe coding, although like I said, what I just described, I would call agentic AI engineering. That's, I think, where the separation is, because people still think that writing some simple prompt is going to get them amazing results, when in fact you still need to be really detailed, right?
You have
Like
to be
me
very
talking,
detailed,
very verbose.
very verbose.
Take a
Let's
hint from John, be verbose.
be verbose. So, in great spirit of not watching grass grow while this thing is building, let's skip over to the other two projects just to kind of give you a flyover, and then we'll come back.
Sure.
So,
All right.
I built one it's a lead gen site called Local Tax Pros. And John, I may have mentioned I've been a slumlord of domains over my life cycle here.
I am
This is
aware.
yeah. So this is a domain I owned, I sold, I bought back. And so I'm reviving it as a lead gen for finding your trusted tax and financial professionals. And I'm going to enable this to be on a shoestring budget for lead gen, and we'll see how well it works. If it works, great, great. If it doesn't, well, it's another experiment for me uh, under the belt. And then let's shift over. I talked about a monitoring tool. I have Beacon. So Beacon is up right now, and I have two monitors going for site checks that are in my portfolio of companies that I work with. Maybe I should log out. I wonder if I should go back to the site. This is what it looks like from the front end without a login, and it looks very professional. It the button to get 1 month free should not be enabled yet because I don't think I put in payment processing yet, and I don't want to yet until I have more of this wrung out. But my point is, I'm vibe coding the fixing of this to make sure it's got cron jobs correct, schedulers. I have to set up remote cron jobs and schedulers, but that's part of the party of having the technical expertise to recognize that and have callback functions and webhooks and so it's not just pure vibe coding; it's vibe coding with steroids.
Exactly. So actually understanding the engineering backend and having that experience before AI came along is still quite valuable in terms of not spinning in circles, blowing through token counts and generating and regenerating and regenerating and regenerating. Yeah, but these tools are pretty smart. And while I haven't used Willow myself, I use Claude Code and do have a professional plan with there. And I've never run out of tokens, but it just keeps improving services and adding sub agents to tasks. And, it's a lot to keep track of. But once you get the hang of it, it works pretty well. So I'm happy with it.
Absolutely.
Now, how are credits spent on the platform? Like, what is one credit worth?
Yeah, that's a great
In Willow.
question. These are not credits as probably you think a direct token to credit ratio, and I think there's some little bit of mastery behind that because it does do deployment. So that's all fitting in within a credit. So I can tell you that the 5 credits you get for free are enough to build a skeleton front end, but it's to actually build back end capability, it's going to take a lot more than 5 credits. If your goal is to maybe work it forward financially and pay for it as you go, it's not a bad model. So this month I'll use up my 40 credits, and next month I'll get my next 40 credits back. And so I'm not going to kill the bank on building this. Under the covers, they're using a couple third-party services, which is their value add and how it all glues together, which is magic. Allegedly, deploying. So it started that process, and you can see it updating live. And for our users that don't see this excitement, we're adding a brand new game to our portfolio of 8 games under Pupcade. So under Pupcade, you will find a new game soon called Unriveted. Soon. And soon is a favorite word of mine.
Nice and vague, right?
Nice and vague.
So do you know what third-party services they're using on the back end? I mean, is there any
a couple. Some of them are advertised as you do it. They ask for like they prompt you to create an account for like resend, and then there's a couple other platforms. I use cron-job.org. They prompted me for that. You create the account, you give back the information, a key, and then they can work with it. It's pretty convenient.
That was my one question was, what's the IP, what's the moat on Willow? And sometimes I think, the IP is not necessarily the model. It's just like it's the glue, right? It's the bundling. I remember I read some article in like Entrepreneur magazine, and it said in like the history of all modern products, everything has been a case of bundling, unbundling, and rebundling, and that's how things have come and gone in the world. Is taking a bunch of random services that people use and manually glue together, and then creating a service that glues them together for them, and then people eventually, get tired with that, or they want to use a different approach, so then they unbundle, and then new things come along and get so it's all this cycle of bundling versus unbundling versus rebundling, and that's the I don't know if that works for every single product, but they gave examples. I wish I could remember the examples. Unfortunately,
You are the master bundler. So as we were speaking, the thoughts going through my head is, do you know how little computer companies started back in the dark ages with little integrated circuits and stuff? And I worked for a guy that tried to talk a couple of young 20-something-year-olds not to quit their day jobs to go start a little computer company. And that little computer company is called Apple. And the guy I'm talking about, his name is Rex, and I ended up working for Rex and a little after that. So the basis of Apple is based on standard parts, and then they started customizing and building their own IP in the process. So it's actually smart thinking of how I put it all together, how I package it and present it to the consumer. If it ends up on AWS on a service called Render. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, it did update. It just didn't see it. So I don't know if you can see in small, it says 9 games, and I've not played it yet. I'm going to click on the 9 games, and we'll see what the first view is. And we're looking down for the one that's going to be called Unriveted. There it is there. And I'm going to click, and live, for anybody who wants to see this, we're going to see a live view of the game that probably needs to be debugged and fixed, but it's a good start to showing a new dimension for building video games. And of course, there it is. I got to tap to play. Unriveted. I might have shown a big old rivet or something, but that's just me, right? But it's built. I'll have
Wasn't
to debug
that in your
it.
spec though?
Yeah, it is in my spec, but what it does when I click on it, I have to double check. And what I'm not seeing is playing this as a full Pupcade view from over here. Let me refresh and make my point more clear, is that when you click over here, I might find out I have a CORS error and then have to go debug from here. So I might want to do something like view, developer tools. And yeah, we're having an issue that I need to post back into Willow. So I'll take this little failed error on this, and I'll post that back for debug. But let me not just talk about it. Let me do it in front of you. So I'll do a quick screen capture.
It looks like there's only one error.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you do this, your console will be full of errors, and then it's like, where do I even begin, right?
That is correct. So we'll go to desktop, and we'll get the latest upload. I think it's going to be this one. We are uploading it. And so I'm going to give you a live example of how to debug this. Help debug issue in image. There we go. And it knows how to
now, is there a way to give it access to the console directly within Willow? So rather than have to take a screenshot, it can actually access the console directly to see what those messages are?
Technically, yes. But if you think about what you're looking at a document object model here inside of a browser, the complexity of that is a little messy. So they would have to get this window where I'm hovering, right? And just use that object model and then look for the errors there, as opposed to the overall browser. Does that make sense? It's saying the game canvas is blank, phaser loaded, but the console. So there's things it wasn't doing unload, but it's going to go deploy it. And for sake of the audience not to be bored out of their minds, take our word. You'll be able to come to Pupcade by the time this thing goes live. This audio and this video, and you'll be able to play Pupcade, and possibly we might make another game. It might be called Suka. Who knows?
Now I think you're starting to depart a bit from the theme of puppy. Unriveted's already kind of a stretch, but souk up if you make a game based on me. Unless you're calling me a dog, I don't know, but
No, no,
we
no,
might
no,
want to
no, no,
reevaluate that.
no animal, no animal diversion intended here. I was just being facetious, but I'll take that as a good mention to not use that to break my theme. And
You've shown how easy it is to make websites and even games using Willow. That making a new one, not to ruin your puppy theme, shouldn't be all that difficult, I would
I agree.
imagine.
Well, with that, John, I am going to say this is a wrap on our podcast and say thank you all for listening. And in the podcast notes, and where you can get a special deal from Willow directly. And that's going to be so awesome for you. Please join us for supporting Willo.ai. It's a great place to be for doing your more than vibe coding, your vibe delivering.
Sounds good. Thanks, Martin.
Awesome. Cheers.